Hello, everyone. Welcome to Relate to You. We are so excited to have another episode this week. Today, we're going to talk all about sisterhood and what it was like growing up with sisters. Lula has 4 sisters. I have 3 sisters. And there's so many things that come with that. But I think we want to talk about the best aspects of having sisters and, the worst with respect, with kind. There's pros and cons to everything in life.
Balance.
But also, did we feel like we were lacking in having a brother? What would life could have been had we had a brother, all of that. So first and foremost, where are you in the not rankings, but what number of sister are you?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you feel like today as an adult having sisters? And we'll get into childhood right now.
I'm the fourth. So we're 5. I'm the 4th child or girl. And today, as since I'm older, I feel like I appreciate having my sisters more than when I was a child or in my teens.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I cherish more the family dynamics and our dynamics as sisters. But definitely there was a very
Love-hate
relationship when I was younger, when I was a child. But right now I like it. Right now I don't. I think when I was younger I did tend to think about like I wish I could have a brother.
Mm-hmm.
But now that I'm older, no, not so much. What about you?
I'm the youngest of 3 older sisters, and I also have really transitioned in my relationship with my sisters. The beginning years of my life, my 2 older sisters, the eldest and the oldest, they were more like tias to me,
I see.
So there's a
big gap.
There's a 17, 16-year gap. And so the first 10 years, almost even 14 years of my life, I could say I had no relationship with my sisters. But now as an adult, it's very different.
Yeah.
Like, it's so different being able to talk to my older sisters as an adult and as a married woman as well, because that was an experience that for years I never understood. And so I can definitely say that I'm enjoying it at the moment. But as far as taking us back, so we can do this chronologically for our childhood, what is one of the most hilarious experiences that you had with your sisters, maybe in terms of, learning what sharing meant, learning what, this is my clothes or whatever, not your clothes, or something that went along the lines of, this is what it feels like to have a sister. And there's that, like, this is funny, but it was also kind of like we're fighting,
Well, I also have age gaps with my older sisters, so I don't think at least with the oldest, I think there's a 16.
Oh, nice.
16-year gap difference, and so I don't have 11 years, I think.
That's a bit.
I don't know. I know I don't know why I went to 16.
Because
anyway,
my older sisters are in their 40s, both of them.
Yeah, my oldest as well, but so 11. Let's say 11, and so I think I grew up thinking that she was sort of like a second mom, because she would take care of us and she would take on to that role of like, okay, mom's not here, I'm the one that like gets to feed you, care for you, tell you no or whatever. So I think I grew up seeing her as very like, okay, respect,
Right.
So I don't think there was that relationship like with the youngest. Oh yeah, con ella sí, fighting, like it was just to the death. But I remember one time con Kelly, we have petty fights. We've had petty fights that end up being like cat fights, like I'm gonna punch you, and we've had fights that started very serious and somehow we ended up laughing. Like why were we even fighting? Oh no, we were. It was a serious thing, and we're like, oh why are we laughing now? But I think with her it was more that with my twins, because I have twin sisters or siblings. With them, um, I think I think I think with them it was that relationship of like, you're the annoying one. You're
Oh, okay.
you're like for example, my mom always had a thing of like, or not my mom, I don't know if my mom, but when they would date, they would have to take us everywhere. So Kelly and I were the chaperones.
Hmm.
So and we were annoying. We were annoying. Like, I want this and I want that. And, and what are you guys doing? What are you guys doing? Why are you guys holding hands? Oh gosh. I cringe just to think about it. So my Adi and Bere would see us as like, oh, I have to take you. Like, you're annoying. And so I think that was a relationship of like, ay, hazte para allá, you're annoying me. Or, ay, mocosa fea, whatever. But Kelly and I, because it's just a 2-year difference, we would bump heads a lot. Her and I, it was very difficult. Con ella sí te puedo decir que she gave me a sense of like, we have to share. Especially because we would share a room. And it was just, I mean, yeah, el típico, oh, esa blusa es mía. Well, not anymore, and mi mamá le compraba algo a Kelly y yo decía, pues yo también quiero una igualita. Y Kelly, pero ¿por qué te quieres ver igual? Y luego pues, no se me miraba igual. And so, I mean, el baño también era a fight. Like, yo primero, y no, y yo te gané, yo estaba ya aquí lista. And then that person, out of pettiness, we would take forever. We would take forever
Just to take
just to
forever.
annoy the other one that didn't get to the restroom on time. So,
I think what's interesting is that, there's no like family that will ever be the same.
right.
Ever, and I remember when Joel and I were getting married, you know how your pastor always recommends you take like some counseling courses before you get married. And so we were doing our session, and she was wanting to break down the family dynamic. And we both grew up with 3 siblings, but she's like, even if you had the same amount of siblings, someone that's the oldest will never understand what it's the experience of the youngest.
Right.
And vice versa. Or someone that grew up with all boys and someone that grew up with all sisters. And so even though we both grew up with sisters, that experience that you had, I've never experienced that. Like the sharing part, I can't really say that I ever like one, I never shared a room to begin with. I shared with my mom. Like I would be with her at times because I don't know if you guys know, my dad is disabled or was disabled, and so he had a hospital bed for a long time, and so he would actually sleep on his own for a while, and so I would sleep with my mom, and Annie would have her own room, and Irene was in the endings of getting married, and so. For me, I didn't grow up fighting for a room or fighting to get into the bathroom. It was more of like I grew up with the sister that's next to me, which is Annie. She's 7 years my senior. And so she was 15 when I wanted to play. And she was this bookworm. So she was literally like in the couch or in her room. Everything was like, she was in that season of like, I want my room to match. I want my things to, be mine. And so I wanted to go to her room, but I was never allowed. Like, hasta eso que my mom, she was actually, funny enough, she was actually not like, déjala entrar, déjala ir a tu cuarto. She was very like, no, you have to understand that this is your sister's room. She likes it maintained. Y todo. And I have one photo, Annie, she knows this, where she's playing with me Barbies. But it was like pulling teeth to get her to play with me. I was 5, 6, 7.
Is it noticeable in the picture, or is she actually?
She's I mean, she's
you.
younger, so she in that photo, if I was like 5, then she's 7 years older than me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So then she was 12. So she was at an age there where she would play. But the older she got,
The lesson.
the less and less it
I
happened.
see.
And in that photo, you can see my little smile of like, yay, you know, my sister's playing with me. And, you know, even though my sisters eventually they had kids, they were still too young to understand the concept of story making or,
Right,
you know,
right.
make believe y lo que sea. So I have that one photo. But honestly, for like a good 3-4 years, I played by myself. I didn't have anybody to play with. And so I grew up with the sister that, yeah, that, like, get away, you know, I don't want you here. But as far as the whole, like, dating and the whole scene, um, I experienced that. I did experience that only with one sister, with Annie. I hated Fernie at the beginning. I didn't like him because at that time, I was already starting to have a sort of relationship with my sister.
Oh, I see. More on an equal.
On an equal relationship, you know, she would comb my hair, and we would have sister moments, and I would soak it up because for me, it's like, if she's gonna give me time, like, that's amazing. And I've always we joke about this for a good years. She's like, yeah, for you know, the first years of your childhood, like, I hated you. She's like, you were a brat. And then until I hit 14, things changed. You know, now I try to even be more like, you know, proper, reserved, you know, fun or whatever. And then he comes along. And it was like, no, you know, and then obviously for her attention was him. I want to call him. I want to spend time with him. And so when my mom was like, no, llévense a Kez, I was very like, no, like, I'm not going to like him. But funny enough, I never tried to sabotage. I never tried to sabotage because my relationship with my sisters was very, like, there was a line. And I think that sometimes I envy having, like, wishing I had a relationship with sisters where there was more of that. There was more contention. There was more, like, we share clothes, and then I you know those memes where someone walks in and then they just, like, throw something,
Yeah.
and then they
Oh my
walk
God.
away.
That's
Does
me
that
and
happen?
Kelly. Yes.
Like, I don't know.
Till this day, Kelly and I would do that. Kelly will just go in my room, turn off the lights.
Just turn off the light.
Just turn off the lights, and then be like, and then, you know, say something funny like, you know, te huelen las patas or something, and then she'll leave. And then there are times where I'll go into her room and I'll just stand there and stare at her, and she's like, "What do you want?" I'm like, "Nothing." "What do you want?" "Nothing." And I'll stand there.
Just-
She's like,
just to annoy.
her. Or lo mismo en el baño. You know, she's taking a shower y voy y le apago la luz. Y ella me hace lo mismo. Voy y me apaga la luz. Or we go and do our business. And she's like, why? Why are you? ¿Por qué se te antoja ahorita que me estoy bañando? Y lo mismo cuando, you know, when I'm taking a shower. So también she goes in there and she's like, y también le digo, dude, please leave. Please leave. I'm about to finish. Like, leave. And she's like, nope, I'm going to stay here. I'm like, oh my God. So we do annoy each other like that.
In that way.
In that way, yeah.
I've only had one fight with my sister. One that's recorded that I have no recollection of, and I still have the diary.
It's recorded in that
It's
sense
recorded
that
in the diary.
okay.
I have a diary.
I was like, someone
children
recorded you.
chicken scratch, where I write. I don't know if it was real, but I write that supposedly I drew something for Annie, and she put her gum in it, and she crumpled it. Now I can't see that because obviously I see Annie how I see her, but maybe 15-year-old Annie was kind of mean, you know? So in my thing, I said, so I hit her with the broom. I'm like, I have no recollection, but it's written, and that's why I have it. But one fight I remember, my sister was in the restroom and she was doing her hair, and my mom was on me, go take a shower. And I was addicted to Hannah Montana. Addicted. So I'm watching the episode and I'm just like, I need to see what's going to happen. There's a 2-day episode. Like, I need to see what's going to happen. And my mom was like, okay, this is the last time. Go take a shower, or, you know, I'm going to ground you. I'm not going to let you watch TV. And so I'm like, fine. So I go, and while my sister, we only had one bathroom. She's doing her hair. I don't know what she was doing. I go in, and for many years, claimed I did take a shower. But I am an adult now that I can honestly admit that all I did was I turned on the shower head, wet myself, and got out. That's it. That's all I did. I didn't shower. So I get out y me estoy secando. And my sister's like, you didn't take a shower. And I was like, yes, I did. And she's like, you didn't take a shower. Go back and take a shower. I did. I did take a shower. Again, I'm like 9. She's like 15, 16. And then she's like, no, you didn't. I just saw you. I'm in the bathroom. You didn't take a shower. Yes, I did. I did take a shower. I did. And I'm getting mad. And you know when you tell kids something
Yeah.
that like, no, yeah, you did. No, and then they get all mad. Like,
That's how you know they did it.
that's how you know they did it. So I'm fuming, you know? And I'm just like trying to, you know, put my clothes on. And she's like, oh, no. You didn't. I'm going to tell my mom you didn't take a shower. You just want to watch the show. And so I got mad. And so I got to that point of that boiling, you know, Kez. And I smacked her on her arm. And I ran out. Like, I ran out because I knew she was going to come for me. And she, again, the only real fight that I can remember, she comes after me and she starts chasing me down the hallway and she's like, oh, you're gonna get it. And I don't know, you know, if you grew up with sisters that hit you, but I know that to a certain degree she could have disciplined me if she wanted to, but this time this wasn't I'm gonna discipline you, Kezi. This is, or Annie, this is, I'm gonna hit you like a sister. And so she's coming and I go to my the furthest room in the hallway, and I'm just like, ma, you know. And so we're fighting, we're hitting each other, all of that. And now I'm getting even more mad because it's like, oh, okay, so she's gonna fight, so I'm gonna fight too. So I start hitting her. She starts trying to grab me to get, like, I'm like a little monkey, like trying to fling me across, you know. And then I kicked her somewhere, and she was just like, oh no, you didn't. Oh no, you did not just do that. And so she was like, ma. And so my mom was like, ¿Qué pasó? ¿Qué pasó? ¿Por qué están peleando? Paren de pelear. And I'm just like, what? And she's like, mom, she hit me. And my mom was like, no, but how could you hit your sister? Like, obviously my mom, she never let us do sports for a reason. You know, she was very like, no, una niña se tiene que cuidar. You know, you never know what can happen, you know. So the fact that I kicked her in a certain area, it was like the death that I did the worst, you know? And so I'm like, no, mom, but she was, you know, the one that was like yelling at me. And so my sister is like fake crying. She's literally like fake crying. She's like, I'm in so much pain, you know, blah, blah, blah. I was just trying to tell her to take a shower, no se quiere bañar. And so I'm just like, mom. And so my mom was like, no te voy a pegar a ti because you clearly started all of this. So as my mom is yelling at me, so it's like I'm my mom and you're me, right? And I'm just trying to like get out of it. She's pointing at me and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that porque te portaste mal. Behind her, you have my sister with her tears, but like... And she's literally sticking her tongue out, kind of like, what? And I'm like, mom, look at the face. And my, like, literally, like, como película. Like, she was just like, mom, I can't believe that. And then she'd turn around and she'd do it again. So then I'd lunge at her and I'd try to scratch her. So then my mom was like, ya ves, you're the problem child. Like, tu hermana ni te está haciendo
You're feral.
nada. Yes, you know? And so it was, that literally is the only real, like, fight I could say I really had. But that was the only time I could say I got to her. Like, I actually caused a reaction because I was a brat. I was very spoiled. I was very like, you know? Like, that's when I see kids today that are like that. I'm like, man, like, I was just like that. Like, I get it. And it's annoying. And so I don't know if there was ever that experience with you. Like, did you ever have your mom, like, was she fair in her disciplining? Or was she like, because my mom was also una de esas where she says that for the older sisters, like, no sabía cuál la comenzó. So she would hit both of them just so that there wasn't like, okay, si tú me dijiste, there's favoritism. But in my case with Annie, it was always me. But I do think that 99.9% of the time I deserved it. But what about for you?
With my older sisters, especially with Adi, we would get in fights but it was one of those things where it was like, I get to hit you, but if you hit back, oh no, eso no, allá habráse visto, you know? And so I do remember the one time I hit her back, Adi. Oh my God, she had it out for me for like weeks after that.
Oh, weeks?
Yeah. And until this day, Adi thinks that it was like child abuse, like I'm so sorry, Lula. Yo sí te pegaba bien feo. Pero yo nada más me acuerdo of um two occasions where we got in a fight. She hit me to discipline me, and I hit her back. So then after that, it was like, no, I'm gonna hit you porque now you deserve it, like
Right.
in todo eso. And I would fight back, which was her whole thing. Like, don't fight back so I don't have to hit you more, But I wouldn't care. I
You're
would
like,
fight
no.
back. I was like, no. But Adriana, she doesn't do that anymore. But a couple of years back, she would sometimes we would just be like there, ha ha ha, hi hi hi, and then out of nowhere, it's like, ay Lula, perdóname. Y yo, ¿de qué? Es que yo sí te pegaba bien feo. Le dije, I'm like, dude, no. Pero con Kelly es así. Those fights were to the death. Those fights. But the funny part is we would never do them in front of my mom.
Oh, okay.
Because we knew that my mom would do that. Of like, a las dos les voy a dar. No me importa who started it. Se están peleando. And so we wouldn't fight in front of my mom. There were some occasions where
It just happened.
it just happened because we couldn't hold it. And so we fought in front of my mom. And I remember one time we're fighting, right? And dude, we're chasing each other down the stairs, up the stairs. We're everywhere in the house. Like, we're vicious. We're trying. Okay, I would hear her and I would run and then she would be behind me. Y todo, así estábamos. Entonces, y mamá todo el rato en la sala, así sentada, viendo el soccer. So finally, she's like, she turns off the TV. She goes like this. Va y agarra un cinturón o un palo. I don't remember. And she's like, Lula, ven. Y yo, no mami, no mami, no mami, no mami. Lula, ven. No mami, no mami, no mami. Si pones las manos, te va a ir peor. Y yo, no mami, no mami, no mami, no mami. And so, I obviously...
Move your hand.
Ajá.
Move your hand.
Mueve las manos. Y yo, no mami, no mami, no mami. Y obviously puse las manos. Me fue peor, como me dijo. Dude, yo estaba llore. Mami, no, mami, no, mami, whatever, Y luego le toca a Kelly, ven. Y le dijo lo mismo. Si pones las manos, te va a ir peor. So Kelly was just like... Kelly no puso las manos, le dio. Y Kelly nada más estaba... Y nos estaba aguantando de llorar. Yo sí estaba porque a mí mi mamá, a las dos, nunca nos pegaba. Era very, very, very rare that she would. Entonces ese día, como no se había movido, como todo el trato estaba así, tranquila. We thought, oh, she's not
paying attention.
She's not paying attention, yeah. Pero cuando apagó la tele y le hizo así, and she went and grabbed yo creo que sí fue un belt. Y las dos, automatically, las dos nos quedamos como que, oh my God, nos va a pegar. Entonces, yo pensé que si le suplicaba, porque I remember hasta le dice, please, no mami, por favor. Y le digo, no Lula, no, a las dos. Y ya nos pegó. I'm pretty sure porque a Kelly yo me acuerdo como que le pegó como twice y ni siquiera así bien fuerte. A mí me fue peor porque puse las manos, como me dijo. And so, pero luego acaba de eso y yo estoy llorando, bien, bien mártir yo. Y Kelly nada más está, whatever. And so nos voltea a ver y me dice, para la otra que se quieran pelear, se pelean afuera de mi casa. Aquí en mi casa no. Como si fueran perros y gatos. Y nada más, no mami, no mami. Y ya. After that, we never...
Set you guys straight.
Yeah. Ya no nos peleábamos a golpes.
It was like...
It was just verbally. Y at that point, mamá ya nada más decía, okay, ya. Ya, sepárense, caminen, hagan algo, pero ya. Pero porque nos dábamos cachetadas, nos dábamos patadas, nos jalábamos el pelo. Creo que hasta unas veces nos llegábamos a morder. We were vicious. It was bad, Y luego Kelly más chiquita que yo también. And so, Pero bien interesante, cuando estábamos en México, no nos peleábamos tanto. Porque I think what it was is that
The
we,
simple life?
not just the simple life, pero again, no, I don't want this to be a mopey story, pero we were in survival mode for a lot of the time. And so yo siempre era de, hay que cuidar a Kelly. Hay que cuidar a Kelly y hay que protegernos and hay que cuidarnos. Entonces, no había mucho,
Animosity.
there wasn't a lot of room for fighting porque era más de we need to care for each other. We need to take care of each other. Pero ya cuando nos vinimos a, I mean, yes, we would still fight, pero no era muy así de, no, pero Kelly está chiquita, hay que cuidarla y así. Ya cuando nos vinimos a US, different ball game. Different ball game. I didn't like my transition to the US. I felt very left out by the kids, and it was a whole. I was 12, so I went into middle school and I didn't have like a transition kind of thing. And Kelly, on the other hand, she went to elementary and she went with Edith, all my cousins. And so for her, I feel like it was an easier transition porque she would hang out with her cousins. I didn't. I didn't have friends. And so I feel like I turned into this very bitter little girl. Y Kelly didn't. Kelly was like, no, for me, it's fun. And
She was happy.
I get to hang out with Edith. I get to hang out with Omar. I get to hang out with, all these kids and our cousins. And so there was a lot of like, ya ahí empezó muchos problemas. And so then I do think my mom, she saw that I was becoming como like, ay, esta está media rara, pobrecita. I do think she took some care for me. Y luego Kelly siempre ha sido very free-spirited, very like, outgoing, and she has just that personality of like, entonces my mom in a way is like, okay, I don't have to worry about her porque ella tiene la personalidad para salir adelante. So I probably have to worry about Lula porque pobrecita parece que se está muriendo. And so I do think that happened, and I think that made more animosity between
jealousy
Kelly.
for sure.
Jealousy, yeah. Entonces it was that whole jealousy of like, mi mamá te cuida más a ti, or así, and for me it was like, pero you're having a better life than I am, kind of thing. And so yeah, we would fight over the gnarliest things.
It's interesting. Like, I think as you were like saying fights and like things that you did, and then the way that we were disciplined, because I can honestly say my dad never hit me. Like one time I think he tried and we both left because it was just like, at first no podía, entonces, and then two, he was abused when he was a little boy. And so for him, he was always like, I can't hit my daughters. But my mom was una de esas, that like, I am going to discipline you. But I also always pushed the limit. Like, I never just threw something, like, oh, te voy a quitar esto, I remember one time, I know that my sister, like, for what I did, it did not match what I did, And I remember one time we were in the car, and she got me mad. I can't remember why, but she gets down and I stayed in the car mad. I was sulking.
Fuming.
And so she was in the door looking into the car, like, kind of like, are you going to get down or what? My mom was in the car. And I flipped her off. And she was like, the only time in my life my mom me dio una cachetada. Because she could not believe that. She's like, yo no te enseñé eso. I don't know where you got that, but I've never. And then for you to do that to your sister, tu carne, tu sangre, everything, And I was just like, I don't know where that came from. I don't know where that came from. And even as my sister reacted and went inside, I was like, what did I do? What did I do? What did I do? What did I do? Why did I do that? Like,
you're looking at your hands like,
no. And so, esa sí me dolió. It hurt in my soul, like when my mom me dio una cachetada, because I don't know, up until that point, there was a lot of move your hands, there was chasing, there was like, no te voy a pegar, but yes, it hurt, and yes, it was like, oh, te duele, but nothing like your face. It was like, no, esto sí es degrading, But there was a point where I had different kind of moments with my sisters. I don't know if you ever experienced this, where, because you did mention, your older sisters were, kind of like, at least Cele was more of like a mom, and stuff like that. Because I had very limited relationship with my older sisters, I remember two experiences where I wanted to be liked by them. I wanted to have a sister relationship. I had this dream. Annie was still too young to take me out, to buy me stuff, so my goal was like Irene and Rose could be that. And I remember one time, Rose had her own kids. It's not like she wasn't being a good sister. She just had her own priorities, I remember one time I was at her house and she was cleaning out her closet. And she is notorious for like just having good style and having things. And she's cleaning stuff and she's like, oh, if you want anything from the stuff that she was getting rid of, maybe that's why I have a shopping problem. I was like, really? Really? She's like, yeah, I'm not going to use these bags anymore. Dude, I got everything. Like, I was never even going to use it. Like, to me, it was like, my sister is giving me, her shirts, these dresses, and she always had like just so many things, zapatos, heels that my feet weren't going to fit. But I was like, I'll grow into them. I'll grow into them, And it was the like, most exciting like experience for me. And then I remember one time I remember the first time I hugged Irene.
Oh.
And it wasn't, I'm sure Irene hugged me as a child, but that I could honestly say I felt comfortable to hug her, that this was the first time. I remember I was in I was always watching TV. I was in my room, I was watching Disney Channel, and I have so many experiences with spiders. I see a spider right in front of my face, and it was gonna land on my face. And I was like, and I like threw it. I jumped out. Obviously, I'm doing this weird, like convulsing, trying to shake it off. I run to the kitchen, and my sister and my mom were there. And I was like, there's a spider in the room. There's a spider in the room. And I hugged her. I went to her. And I think even in my mind was like, I'm hugging Irene. Like, I don't hug Irene, because she wasn't there. She was also married. And so
she was a mom already.
She was a no, she wasn't a mom yet. Okay.
But she was married.
And she was married. No, she had to have been a mom. Entonces, her kids were babies. Entonces, they eventually find the spider, but I was clinging to her, and I do remember soaking that moment of like, I'm gonna like milk this because I don't know when this is gonna happen again, and it's gonna come naturally. And she also hugged me. She was also kind of like protecting, and kind of like, okay, let's go find the spider. They did, thankfully. But those two experiences, I can say I had these little moments of like, I want to be with my older sister. I want to be liked. Did you have like moments where you ever tried to like be like your older sisters, or you tried to be liked, or was it always like, no, you guys are older and I'm over here and it's more of me and Kelly or something like that?
No, I do think I mean, when I was 11 or so, I would sleep with Bere, just because I wanted to be with her. And then with Adi, despite our fighting and our animosity back then, I think it was always that of I think Adi also saw her as a mom kind of thing, more like of a protector. Entonces Adi, there was a time where she managed to spend time with us, with Kelly and I, and so she would take us to school. She would, try to get us prepared for school. Entonces, in that sense, la miraba yo a ella como que, oh, she's taking care of us. So it's no una mom per se, porque nos peleábamos all the time. Pero it was like, okay, she nos hizo de comer, nos fue a recoger, nos fue a llevar. And so I do think que había un comfort in her, and then again, Adi has always been the protector of all of us. Entonces, porque I used to get bullied in school. Well, when didn't I get bullied? Pero I got bullied in first and second grade, and she was the one that defended me. She was the one, she almost jumped at the little kids, but she didn't, thank God. But and then in third grade, I used to get bullied by the teacher, and Adi was the one that went to talk to her, to the teacher, in my defense. And so for a lot of things where I needed protection, Adi was the person that was always there. Interestingly enough, and then with Cele though, with Cele was that it was that of like I want to be like her, like because Cele used to have a really good sense of fashion as well.
Oh.
And so with her it was she would always match every, like, she would even match the thread of her jeans to her purse or her to her heels. And so and even her makeup. And then Cele, there was a time where she used to have her hair red, and se le miraba tan bonito porque imagínate, she used to be, very light skin, red hair, y chinito. And so parecía a redheaded, and I always thought, oh my God, she looks so beautiful. And um, so yeah, definitely see. I mean, I would love to. Kelly and I would sneak into her room and would look at all the jewelry, and we would look at all her clothes, and be like all her shoes y todo, and we would play house with her shoes y nos poníamos la ropa. So I do think that happened, pero after that was when I was like
You were
8,
younger, yeah.
very very young. When we moved to the U.S., eso estoy hablando when we were in Mexico. When we moved to the U.S., they moved here first, Adi and Bere and no, Adi and Cele. And so when we moved to the US, they quickly managed to settle and start their own lives. So I didn't have a relationship with Cele after that for years, for years. It wasn't until she came back to California that we started having a relationship. But at that time, it was a relationship of, again, of like, oh yeah, I know you're my older sisters, but there's this gap, so no, I don't know how to, and now it was
Relate
yeah,
también,
how to
yeah.
relate. And it was also an awkward moment for me because I was in high school. I was also not having a good time in high school, and it was kind of like, I don't, those teenage years where you think you don't need anyone, but you really do.
Yeah.
But you think you don't. And so I think that's what I'm saying. Until now is when I want to appreciate my
Your
my
relationship with your
relationships.
sisters.
Yes.
What is probably one of the things that today you can say, I love the fact that I grew up with sisters. Now as an adult, now, you know, what does your relationship now look like, and what of that makes you feel appreciative that you have sisters?
Mm, everyone in their way always protect me. Yeah, when we go to Mexico, I know I'm the fourth one, but even the youngest one takes a role of the protector over me. And so I feel like I'm the baby when we travel or when we go to Mexico, which is when we travel. For example, I get car sick or motion sick. De lo que sea. Estoy en el avión, I get dizzy, I get nauseated. Estoy en el carro, for long periods of time, I get dizzy, I get nauseated, todo eso. Entonces, I'm always the one everyone is taking care of. I'm always the one that is like, okay, Lula se siente mal. Let's do this, let's do that, and I feel bad, pero not really.
Yeah, yeah.
And then cuando estamos en Mexico, because I tend to be very clueless and very and clumsy y todo eso, Kelly's always like, camina de este lado de la banqueta,
Ay.
and my sisters también, like, ¿a dónde van a ir? No, pues que acá vas a manejar tú. Pues sí, a lo mejor, y le hace, no, yo las llevo. Adi would say things like, no, 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 vamos, yo las llevo, o así. Entonces, I think there are very few areas where I feel like I get to protect. Very, very, very few. I think just when we're swimming. Other than that, it's like, let's protect Lula. Porque es la pobre.
And it's a good feeling.
And it is a good feeling, which is why I understand why Kelly wants to be, sometimes también the one we take care of, porque ella es la chiquita. And so, pero it just so happens that I'm the less smart between all of them. And so
No, you're just clumsy. Like things just naturally
happen to me. Yeah, that
and
is
so
true.
it just I think you bring that out of someone, and it's just the good thing is that it's not like you're trying to do it or that you're seeking it out. It's just you do naturally need
Protection. And so I do think it had I mean, obviously, I don't know how brothers would have looked like, but it's my assumption that had I been born with just brothers, I wouldn't have received maybe that same care. And porque I know that because we're women, they also understand me as a woman, and so it's easier for Kelly is very hard on me, but I know that deep down she's like, okay, pues acuéstate, yeah, porque yo soy de esas as soon as I start to feel bad in the car, I'm like, oh, I need to lay down, and I'm already on someone's lap, and I'm already like, I see turning green, and I want to throw up. Todo eso. And Kelly tends to be like, no, like, man up, do no, don't let it like
Overpower you.
overpower
But
you.
she's a very strong
But
person.
she's a very strong person. Y yo, I'm like, okay, está bien. And so me quedo así, like, it's like, okay, no, okay, está bien. Lay down, aquí on my laps. And like, she'll give in. But I know that at the beginning, she's like, no, ¿cómo te vas a marear? Llevamos 5 minutos en el carro, Lula, por favor.
No, y imagínate con hermanos.
Exactly.
Menos.
Con hermanos menos. Entonces, a veces sí entiendo, okay, it was meant for me to be born with just sisters. Porque solo así.
I think about that sometimes, and I did go through a phase when I was a kid. I remember having fantasies and dreams of like, one day I'm gonna have a long lost brother that's gonna just show up, and it's like you would never want that to happen because de quién es? De quién es? Either your parents weren't together, or they abandoned their child, and so, but I would have dreams like one day he's gonna show up and I'm gonna have a big brother, never a younger brother.
Yeah, it's always a big brother.
It was always a big brother, and he's gonna protect us. And I think what it was is that because my dad in many ways needed protection and needed care, I didn't grow up with that kind of male figure in my life. And then my two older brother-in-laws, they weren't really in the picture, And so by the time Fernie came, it was more of like, you're just taking the one sister that I'm close to right now. And so I never had that protection feeling. And so there was that fantasy of like, I want to have a relationship with that. And I would say that in many ways that's what Fernie is in my life now. I think the one time twice, it works both ways. One time he's complimented me, and it was like a very sincere compliment. I went in my room and I cried.
Aww.
And then another time it was very mild constructive criticism. I went in my room and I cried.
I cannot believe that.
I cannot believe he said this.
Both cases.
Both cases. But as far as, growing up with sisters, I think that despite of the fact that, who knows the kind of person I would have been, I do think I probably would have been tougher because I think that boys just bring that out,
Right.
naturally. But I think that what I can say I took from my sisters is valuing family over a lot of other things. They're not perfect. I'm not perfect, but I didn't get like aspirations of money or career, or even like relationships, or like get the next guy or something. They were all very simple. Todas son bien simple, no son así. And no que no hay nada malo de eso, but I'm just saying because it just fits my world. No one is like brands and let's spend all this money, or let's do all this stuff. It was very like have your family and your children and simple life. And so I think I took that value from them. But now as an adult, I think I've had a transition with my sisters because I think we can understand each other on a level. Especially once I got married, I feel like I entered a new club. And that was a transition with my nephews of like, we were always at the kids table, and now you actually are talking to them and you understand what they're saying. And now we're talking about aches and medicinas, and so like, I do think that was exciting for me to finally be like, okay, I can understand them on a certain level. But I think it was also interesting to see my sisters for sisters. And not like there was always this relationship of I'm looking up and I'm, they've achieved this or they've gotten that, or, we don't have any kind of equality. and I still respect them. And
Right, yeah.
to this day, Lula, as shocking as it is, I have not once in my entire life ever called a sister ugly or fat or fea o olorosa o lo que sea, because again, my older sisters were like tias. So it was always this like no reverence, like son mi
Respect.
sister. Con Annie, it was obviously more, we fought, but even then, today, our relationship is like we never had that experience. So menos ahorita lo vamos a tener of like I'm gonna tell you something,
Yeah.
right? I think I've grown to love my sisters, and I speak older for my older sisters more than ever because las entiendo. I've learned to have more compassion. I think I've learned forgiveness for a long time. I didn't have a relationship with some of my sisters, and so learning forgiveness is something I got through them. And then learning that they have personalities aside from being a wife and a mother. I think that was something else that I was like, oh, you have interests, you have things that you like, and oh, you have a routine when you go to bed. I remember I asked the other day, I was talking about growing up with ashy elbows, and I still do, I have it. And one of my sisters was walking me through like what she uses to exfoliate, and I was like, you do that? And she's like, yeah, like it's really important to do that, and so I had a moment where I was like, I didn't even know like you did that. So I think right now we have like, we don't see each other every day because we're busy and todo. I wish we could see each other more often. I think that's something that I admire that your family does. But, once a month we have a sister hangout on top of like if we do something as a family. But I think that I've valued having sisters more now than ever.
Yeah.
Porque nos entendemos mejor.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's what it is. Like, there's more, like right now, Kelly and I, we join in the jokes, versus when we were kids, we were the annoying kids that are like, what? Explain it to me. And, but I think, yeah, we hang out once a week. Well, rather, we see each other once a week. And then, de todas mis hermanas, yo soy la más callada.
That's weird.
So ya te imaginarás, todas ellas tienen their quirks and their personalities, and they have, and una es más chistosa que la otra at times, and then there are other times where la otra es más chistosa que la otra, and so, pero de todas mis hermanas I can say que yo soy la más seria, la más.
I honestly think you'd fit in more in my family, and I would fit in more in your family. Porque in my family, casi todas son calladas. And so I'm like, la, 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 and I like to joke, but a lot of the times it's like, I want someone to match that same kind of excitement. So that's why I'm like, you would really fit in.
No, my sisters have big personalities, and
They're hilarious.
they're really funny. I think Cele and I, we tend to be the reserved ones y así, pero yo más que Cele. Pero even that, I enjoy it. I just sit back, let them joke around, y laugh, match the energy, this is too, and laugh también. Pero it's very rare that I make a punchline. Or I'll make.
It's so funny because you are loud.
I am.
And you are talkative and you are funny. And so, but at the same time, I can also understand that you are the way you are because of clearly
sisters,
someone, and they are only 10 times that,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, but all in all, just to wrap it up, I think this was a very nice episode. We get to talk about our sisters, and hopefully we manage a good balance between not so much the bad, but what made us, and the good parts about having sisters. I think another thing that I don't know if we touched on, but we can quickly touch on is I through my sisters I learned a lot of tips for while growing up, as in like how to be a woman in a way, or even with relationships, or with a crush, with a friend, with just, I think when there were things I couldn't tell my mom por vergüenza, porque es my mom and como mi mamá me va a decir, de esto así, I would go to my sisters. So I think that's always a good thing when you have sisters versus having a brother. No, ¿qué le puedes
No
decir?
todo. Yeah.
No todo. Entonces, so that's another plus of having sisters. So, well, any last things you would like to say, to share?
No, just that I know my sisters watch our episodes,
Mm.
and so shout out to my three sisters who've made me who I am, and here's to the next 50, 60 years of our lives. Let's see how our relationship looks like.
Yeah. My sisters also watch the our show or our podcast. Shout out to them too. Las amo. Son mi todo. Y yeah, me hicieron esto. Me hicieron esto.
Thank you.
So, thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We hope you liked it. Please leave a comment, subscribe, share it, and follow us on Instagram, okay?
Bye.
Bye.